Well, take a look at these shirts. We're matching tonight. Did you notice that?
Yeah, we didn't plan it.
Both the beautiful white button-down Oxford original elephant wear shirts from the Locker Room, located on the University Strip. We thank them for providing us with these shirts. Locker Room has been a Tuscaloosa tradition for 46 years. It's the home of the original elephant wear. You can just drop by the store anytime, or you can look them up on the internet at www.locker-room.biz. And I tell you something, Rodney, a lot of people have noticed these shirts, and they've asked me about, that they're going to go by the Locker Room and get one or two or three. Do so. They look great on game days as well. Well, Steve Spurrier had some interesting comments following his team's win over Alabama. Spurrier said it really wasn't about how his team played. Instead, the old ball coach said it had a little bit to do with destiny.
Since our basketball team had beaten the number one, our baseball team had done it, I said, fellas, if fate means for us to win this game Saturday, let's give it a chance. Let's give fate a chance to happen.
And Rodney, a lot of people talking about those comments. Coach Chiswick referred to it being a guy thing after one of Auburn's wins, and a lot of people are saying saying fate. I think what he was saying, though, basically was, hey, it can be done at South Carolina. Basketball knocked off number one. Baseball knocked off number one and won a national championship. Let's just give ourselves a chance and we can knock off number one.
Yeah, I don't find anything wrong with his comments at all, to be quite honest. And, they just were well prepared, Gary, to be fair about it. And as I said earlier, they just out-hit Alabama.
And I know Coach Saban said last week, in the last 5 years, SEC teams are 29-29 coming off bye weeks. That's what the numbers say. But, I think, in my opinion, the bye week helped South Carolina.
Well, we talked about last week how Alabama hit that midseason slump last year before the off week, how tired they were, and all those teams like Tennessee, a very average team when they came in here, to be honest. And Alabama struggled with them, almost lost the game. And I think when you look at it, certainly, clearly, South Carolina was well prepared and much more rested.
Ready to take some phone calls?
Let's go.
Let's do it. First up is Tim in Coleman. Tim, welcome into the program. You're on the air.
Hey, man, how y'all doing?
Doing well, Tim.
Hey, I just just thinking about our young defense and how they was exposed here in this game, and that South Carolina, which had 2 weeks to prepare for the game, we know that, and that they well, do you think they'll bounce back pretty good against Ole Miss?
Yeah, Ole Miss has got 2 weeks to prepare too, but as Rodney alluded to, they're a banged-up football team, although the off week will help them. Alabama is dealing with some injuries, and like we talk about, that's football. You get to this point in the season, you've played 6 straight weeks, you have to, somebody else has to step in. Next up, you got to go out and play.
Yeah, and he asked how they match up, and obviously I think Alabama clearly overall is a more talented football team, but Houston Nutt will have his team ready to play. There's no question about that. And they are talented now. Again, they can score a lot of points.
All right. Thanks, Tim in Coleman. Let's go to Tuscaloosa and talk with BT. BT, welcome into the program.
Hey, Gary, Rodney.
Hey, BT.
Rodney and Gary, I was asking about how would Alabama respond to the challenge against South Carolina from last week. And the show must go on, Gary and Rodney.
Absolutely, Bill. It must go on, and that's well said, because they lost last week. They got to come out and play this week and the next week against Tennessee, get to that bye week. If they can win these next two, then Alabama gets its bye week. They can refresh and recharge for the final 4 games. So absolutely, they're capable of going on and winning the rest of the game.
Gary, and again, a lot of the fans think that these games against Ole Miss and Tennessee, you can just basically mail it in, Alabama's going to win. And again, Alabama can't just show up and win. They have got to, put forth a solid effort and be ready to play. And if they can get past these two, get to the bye week, get some rest, start working towards LSU at that time and kind of see where you are at that point. And then after the LSU game, Alabama has a chance, but they have to win the next two, and it starts with Ole Miss.
All right, BT, good enough. Okay, let's stay in Tuscaloosa and talk to Joseph. Joseph, welcome into Tiger Insider TV.
Hey, roll tide.
Roll tide, Joseph.
David, Rodney, hey, say, man. Now, I was going to ask y'all this stuff. Now, how bad are the injuries with Julio Jones and DJ Fluker?
Right. DJ Fluker, of course, he has what Coach Saban referred to as a pretty severe groin injury. Now, that's the extent of what we know in regards to DJ Fluker. And there you see him working on the bike. He's not even using his legs but his upper body. And then as far as Julio Jones is concerned, You know, we know that he had surgery and had a screw and maybe a plate put in that hand, but Coach Saban said as soon as he can use the palm in that hand and tolerate the pain, that he would be back. If you remember, he was playing there at the end of the game, and that injury occurred in the first quarter, so very tough guy. We'll see what happens with Julio Jones and how quickly he comes back. And again, I don't know, but Gary, my guess would be probably LSU.
Yeah, I would think that too, although he is a tough guy. And
Right.
if he played against Ole Miss, it wouldn't shock me. And I'm glad you said that about DJ. It is a growing. I think earlier I said hamstring. It's a growing, and it's a bad one. As you said, all he was doing on that bike was moving with his upper body. So he probably is, definitely out for Saturday against Ole Miss. And that means Alfred McCullough probably gets to start at right tackle. All right, let's take an email from Greg. When is our offensive play caller going to learn how to finish a football game? Well Greg, I think he's finished in his third year here. He'd finished most of them pretty well. He never lost a regular season game as a play caller. His only 2 losses were against Utah in the bowl game and Florida in the SEC championship game. But I understand people are frustrated. When Richardson and Ingram only get 17 carries combined, there's going to be frustration. But you have to keep in mind, Alabama was down 21-3 before you could really get into any kind of rhythm offensively.
Yeah, and again, I understand what he's saying in some ways. There was an opportunity there. I think after Alabama got the interception, that set them up. They were down, 21-14 at the time, and had an opportunity to possibly punch it in, tie the game, and they get down to the 19-yard line and they turn to the passing game and get 2 sacks or whatever. And, so I understand that frustration in terms of not getting the ball into your best offensive player's hands. But, at the same time, Jim McElwain's track record's pretty good. Let's remember, Alabama has not lost a regular season game in his tenure until Saturday.
That's right. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. All right, real quickly, we're going to take another phone call from CB, and then we'll go to break. CB, what's going on, my man?
Hey, brother, how y'all doing? Heartbreaking loss, but, it had to happen sometime. But what I don't want to know is, how do we get Ingram the ball? I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, especially when we get behind, man. He's on the sideline. I mean, end around, kick returns, halfback pass.
We got you, CB. You got to get, and that is one thing I agree with. And one thing I do wonder about is rhythm with those 2 backs. I know they alternate them in, but it seems like one guy's in for a couple plays and the next one's in. As far as Ingram's concerned, I do think he's a back that has to have some carries to get in the flow of the game. And one thing teams have seemed to wise up to is in the Wildcat, Alabama runs it basically as a single wing. He's catching the ball, he's diving into the line of scrimmage, and maybe they're going to have to tweak that a little. Either get somebody else in the backfield, maybe Richardson with him in the pistol, or hand it off to the guy in motion, or throw it or something to kind of loosen that defense up.
I would think you're going to see that more this week, Gary, on Saturday. I think you're going to see a concerted effort to get back to running the football.
But he is a great back, CB, and they do need to get Mark Ingram the football, no doubt about that. All right, more phone calls and emails when we return to Tighter Insider TV. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tighter Insider TV. I'm Gary Harris. He's Rodney Orr, and you know who you are. And I know Gary in Fayette knows who he is. He's one of our best callers. Welcome in, Gary. How are you?
I'm fine. How y'all?
Doing well.
Oh, I'd like to know about B.J. Scott. Why don't he ever play none?
It's a good question, and most people know about B.J. Scott, a very talented, celebrated player out of Viger High School. Came in 2008 and played a little bit on offense, then was redshirted last season. Now he's a backup cornerback and really hasn't seen the field.
Well, Gary, B.J. Scott, to be honest with you, and we like him a lot, and hope that, in time he gets on the field. And he had a good opportunity in the spring to kind of seal that job down, and then early fall, and for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. I think, B.J. still has some learning to do in terms of grasping what he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there, and those types of things. But, physically, he's an outstanding-looking player, and we certainly hope he gets on the field.
All right, we're going to try to squeeze in one more email, and this is from another Greg. It's basketball. What kind of impact will the 2010 men's basketball recruiting class have on the season? That's so hard to say, Greg. I mean, guys that have never played, but at the same time, they're going to get an opportunity to. This is a team that lacks depth. It lacks numbers. I think the guy to watch for is Relaford, the point guard out of Kansas. Rodney, it wouldn't shock me if he started as a true freshman.
Yeah, and they're doing some outstanding recruiting, Gary. There's no question about it.
Absolutely, trying to get that talent level up. Okay, up next, will Alabama bounce back this weekend, or will the Rebels make it 2 losses in a row for the Tide? We'll make our predictions when Tighter Insider TV returns. Alabama suffered its first loss of the season at South Carolina, and so did we. We both picked the Tide to get the W in Columbia, so we dropped to 5-1 on the season. As always, we begin with Rodney. Your thoughts on Alabama and Ole Miss?
Well, I tell you what, Gary, Masoli really scares me at quarterback. He has the ability to make a lot of big plays. And let me tell you, when things break down, that's when he's at his best, scrambling around, making throws. We saw the holes in Alabama's secondary last week. So I think Ole Miss is going to score some points, but I do think Alabama is much better at home. And that's kind of a sign of a young team when you go out on the road like that, your defense struggles. So I think that Alabama clearly is the better team. And I think at home gives Alabama a big advantage. I don't think there should be a 20-point favorite over Ole Miss, but I pick it 34-20.
Again, I'm almost right there with you. You know, I look at this Alabama defense. It's still growing. It's still a little bit young in some places. It's pretty good. But this isn't going to be a defense that's going to hold people to 9 points a game like it did the first 5 games. Some people are going to score. This offense, which is senior-laden or upperclassmen-laden, is going to have to pick up the slack in some of these games. They're going to have to outscore some people. I think that'll happen Saturday. Masoli and Ole Miss will get some points, but I think Alabama offensively makes plays and wins the game 38-20 over the Ole Miss Rebels to get it to 6-1 with a trip to Tennessee on the horizon next weekend. Well, we're just about done. It's dinner time. We're headed over to Buddy's Rib and Steak in Northport tonight to see our good friend Philip Guy and all the good folks there at Buddy's. Come out and join us if you'd like. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can find it on the website, WVUATV.com. We'll have the full broadcast posted later this evening. We'll also have a replay tonight at 10:35 here on WVUA. And that's going to do it. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week on the one, the only Tiger Insider Television.